Chapter 31. What does Mr. Fu want with my wife? Upon hearing his last two sentences, Ruihe's heart raced in panic. She had always thought that she was different in Fu Jingzhou's heart. After a brief moment of shock, she quickly regained her composure. The expression that seemed like she was owed by the whole world when she arrived, had now completely vanished. She swiftly changed her expression, adopting the pitiful and delicate look she used in the past. "Brother Jingzhou, I was just really angry," she said, looking at the ring in his hand, biting her alluring lips. "Cousin Tang used this ring to humiliate me, and she insulted you too, saying that you and this ring are both unwanted trash to her. I got upset for a moment and came to tell Brother Jingzhou about my grievances." Taking advantage of the icy relationship between Fu Jingzhou and Su Wan Ci at the moment, Ruihe shifted all the blame onto Su Wan Ci. She thought that Fu Jingzhou's anger would now be directed at Su Wan Ci, but unexpectedly, he seemed not to have heard her at all. He pointed to the door and gave her a dismissal order. "Get out." Ruihe wanted to soften Fu Jingzhou by acting submissive, but he was unwilling even to look at her now. Staying here any longer would only backfire. After Ruihe left, Fu Jingzhou looked at the ring in his hand and called Xinghang over. "Clean it up." Xinghang quickly took the ring from him. He lowered his head and glanced at the ring's design, instantly recalling its origin. Xinghang hesitated and said, "Mr. Fu, I feel that Miss Ruihe and Dr. Su are miles apart. If your regret with Dr. Su is only because of the grievances of the previous generation, it really isn't worth it." Xinghang said this and then lowered his head. He was just a subordinate and shouldn't have spoken out of turn. Today, he said these words because he really couldn't stand Ruihe's brainless and shallow behavior. Fu Jingzhou didn't blame Xinghang. Sitting in his swivel chair, he stared at the velvet box that had previously held the ring. After a while, he said to Xinghang, "Cancel all today's arrangements. Go to Hualien Hospital in half an hour." After Xinghang left, Fu Jingzhou continued to gaze at the ring box in his hand, lost in thought. This ring was indeed the engagement ring he had given to Su Wan Ci last year. However, she didn't accept it. It was the first time in these years that she had rejected him. And it happened during a marriage proposal. 2 days before Su Wan Ci's birthday last year, he cleared his schedule, flew abroad, and spent her birthday with her. Shamvk's new model had just been released at that time. Upon seeing this ring, Fu Jingzhou inexplicably bought it and had their names engraved on the inner band. He knew she was his enemy, and he shouldn't have had too much sentiment towards her. But that time, he had a strong impulse to give her this ring, which symbolized crowning love, for this lifetime. On the night of Su Wan Ci's birthday, he gave her the engagement ring. However, what he didn't anticipate was that the gentle and yielding girl, who used to respond to his every request, rejected him for the first time in her life. She said that this period was crucial for her studies and medical research abroad, and she couldn't abandon everything to return to the country with him like that. She asked if he could wait for another year. Wait for 1 more year, and after she finished her ongoing projects, she would return to Xiangcheng and never leave again, always staying by his side. When he heard Su Wan Ci's rejection, no one knew how complex Fu Jingzhou's emotions were at that moment. It seemed like a relieved sigh. But more than that, there was a sense of loss. And a fleeting panic of fearing losing her. Half an hour later, before going to Hualien Hospital, Xinghang had already cleaned the ring and handed it over to Fu Jingzhou. Arriving at Hualien Hospital, Fu Jingzhou went directly to the 3rd floor. At that moment, Su Wan Ci had just finished treating a patient when Fu Jingzhou entered. Seeing Fu Jingzhou again, Su Wan Ci's face showed no emotions. Her expression was calm, as if he was just a stranger. Looking at her familiar yet distant features, something in Fu Jingzhou's heart seemed to stab him intensely. The pain spread from his heart to every fiber of his body. Even his breath seemed to carry a tinge of agony. Su Wan Ci continued calmly typing on her computer after giving Fu Jingzhou a brief look. "Mr. Fu, what's the matter?" Fu Jingzhou stood in front of her desk, opened the velvet box, and placed it in front of Su Wan Ci. "Xiao Ci, I want to explain this ring to you." Su Wan Ci's fingertips paused for a moment on the keyboard. Then, she continued as if nothing had happened. "No need," she said, "Mr. Fu and I have no relationship whatsoever. Similarly, this ring has nothing to do with me. I don't care who it belongs to." Fu Jingzhou's Adam's apple bobbed. However, the ring remained on the table, he didn't retrieve it. "Xiao Ci, it's yours. It has been yours since last year. Regardless of whether you want it or not, it belongs to you alone." Upon hearing this, a hint of mockery appeared on Su Wan Ci's face. She saved the patient's information and looked up at Fu Jingzhou. "Mr. Fu, I don't have a preference for collecting trash. If you want to throw something away, please turn right at the door and toss it directly into the trash bin." "Xiao Ci, do you have to talk to me like this?" Su Wan Ci pressed her lips together. "If Mr. Fu is seeking consolation, please go to the Sur residence. There's a young lady there who is eagerly waiting for your affection day and night." As she was about to refuse, a knock sounded at the door. Su Wan Ci looked up and saw that it was Luu. Seeing Luu, Fu Jingzhou's brow slightly furrowed, his face not showing any change. Before he could speak, Luu's languid voice reached them. "Mr. Fu, looking for my wife?" Fu Jingzhou's eyes flickered slightly at the familiar term "my wife." "A bit." Luu walked in and lazily added, "As far as I know, Mr. Fu is just the major shareholder of Hualin, while Lin Angguo is the hospital's dean. If it's a matter of work transition, shouldn't it be Dean Lin coming to see my wife?" Fu Jingzhou's expression turned colder. "Young Master Lu is misinformed. The entire Hualin Hospital is under the umbrella of Fu Corporation. I have the authority to be involved in any matters concerning Hualin." Luu made a nonchalant O sound, his tone devoid of emotion. Fu Jingzhou's gaze shifted from Su Wan Ci to Luu. "If young Master Lu doesn't have any urgent matters, please leave. It's working hours." Luu's lips curled in a half-smile as he gestured toward the wall clock. "It's currently 11:30 a.m. which happens to be lunchtime. Mr. Fu, you don't have the right to prevent us, the newlyweds, from enjoying our honeymoon."